Alrighty, let's get into it. See if this is working. I'm interested to see if this works. Let's give this a shot. Hey Peach, how's it going? There we go. Alrighty, and let's get into the final stages. Hello, hello. All right. So I'm just trying to get the. Oh, here we go. Stream is healthy. Excellent. That is what we're after. Okay, cool. Let's get this on the road. Jumping into the final workshop of the day, talking about optimized methods. We can jump in the main stage in our Discord or the YouTube link, capital T. And let's change that to that. All right. Last thing I need to do. Cool. Alrighty. So what we're doing this session is making optimized assets. We're going to make one from start to finish in hopefully, roughly, 2 hours. So let's see that. And yeah, let's get into it. Do I like that one? Nah, this one's better. All right. So, in the Discord, you've got the main chat that should be playing with this. Hopefully, it works. If not, you can also go to the YouTube, which has a chat if you have any questions or things like that. I think. Ah, yes, here we go. I've got two chats. So let's, dang it. Making sure I have access to all the chats. There we go. Discord and YouTube. So the question comes down to, what do we want to make? Now, let me just get these off because
Okay, that works. That's annoying. Okay, I'm gonna have to redo all of that in post. Cool. That said, it's in the Discord, so I can maybe record that. Nope. Oh well. Okay. So continuing, let's do this sort of a little bit quicker. There. 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 We've got that edge there as well, so I'm going to put that sort of on there because that's where I want the normal to be, etc., etc. And as you can see, you definitely get faster. Now, say for example, this loop, I don't really... Cool. Thanks, Moody, for checking that in. I'll have to figure out how to fix that later. So the approach here is I don't want those two to be so close together because there's no benefit to that at all. So I could either close it off, for example. I'm going to turn that off because I want to see this line. So I could follow this line there. But there is a little bit of... Oh, that's straight as well. So that's kind of like a waste. So this whole poly loop is not needed. So I'm actually going to just blend these two. And then move this sort of more there. And as that line is going all the way down, that's a much better approach to saving all of the polygons. That one's there. Maybe a bit further. No, that's good. And then same again. So there's like every polygon, if you're like me, is vitally important in regards to sort of optimizing as best you can. So once again, in hard surface assets, the triangles don't really matter that much, or as much, but the poly loop does help with your modeling, if that makes sense. So you sort of need to make that choice where I want to use that edge loop for whatever reason, but if I was using unwrap and doing all that sort of stuff, I would have to maybe slightly more manually select things with that approach. So very much case by case, if you will. A big thing with optimization is more about the silhouette more than anything else. So say, for example, that's got a bit of, well, that bit's straight, but that bit's curved. So I'm going to keep that straight as further down as possible. Because it doesn't really need to be... I'm going to put that there because I'm going to close this one. Ah, interesting. So got that. Ah, we want to close that one. So let's go merge it last. Yep, that looks good. Put that across, so that's kind of nice and neat. And then further across here. Now we want to get that sort of as close to the main point as possible. Let's keep that one going down a bit. So yeah, your low polygon asset is always going to be about the silhouette. So in this case, there's a curve, like let's say I could, if I wanted a really low polygon asset, make that 1, because the normal map will actually curve that for you, I'm going to do that. And one approach that I'm more interested in, I don't use it very often, but say, for example, level of detail is a very useful tool for optimized spaces. So in Unity, if you were making a Mona space or a WebGL space or a game for any of these assets, you would use level of detail. So when the asset moves away from the camera, it would use a lower polygon asset that you make. But the thing is, you have to make that asset. So say, for example, my higher polygon asset, where's that one? That's the high poly. The low poly is here. So let's hide the one I'm working on. Get rid of that one. And get rid of the high polygon, which is up here. That one. So as you can see, I've sort of added a few polygons, and because that's pretty straight, I don't really need to. The normal map will clean that up. So let's make a lower polygon version, like a really optimized one, or look at some of the considerations for that. So I need the high poly again. There we go. So say, for example, I need that point there because you've got a very clear, what would you call it? Silhouette shape change, right? But for the side part, maybe I don't. So I'm actually going to get rid of, so I'll click that, delete, dissolve edges, gets rid of that. And then I'm going to put this one up here. Like so. Right. So the normal map, it's a bit low, isn't it? That's not great. So, yeah, I'm going to go with my original plan. Just using K to put a knife across there. And then G to get these up. But I'm going to optimize a bit more of these ones. So the silhouette is the only thing that matters with the extremely low polygon, and everything else does not. Another useful thing is I'll use Shift R, which will redo the last thing I did. So in this case, it's reset to last. Now here, for example, we do have a very clear silhouette shift. So I'm actually going to leave that one. Yeah, no, I'll leave that one. That's fine. Is that a big enough silhouette shift? Kinda? No? No, it's not. Is that a big enough shift? I think so. I'm going to leave that one. Yeah. So, yeah, those two can go there maybe. Yeah, that's fine. So you start seeing like a lot of locations where you can start taking basically shortcuts. And I will take all of them if I can. Purely because... F to join those two. I want to save those polygons. So once again, this one, not much of a shift. I'm going to get rid of that. I do need that one though. So let's get rid of that one. Dissolve edges. And then join that one there. Like so. And then that's a square. So that's fantastic. But I need that because Blender seems to delete things like that. I don't want those triangles because I like things clean, so I'm just going to get rid of that and join that again. Now, this asset would be very low polygon. It would not have the doors, but, ooh, that's a theory. If you're driving... No, you might see someone open a car from a distance, so you'd probably want to do that. So, if you were designing a car with a door, so you could get into it, then you would cut around the door and keep that as a separate asset as well. but my card doesn't. So I'm going to keep that really clean. Yeah, right. So let's continue. Now, how can I optimize this section? Let's do that. Once again, there's a very clean silhouette change there, so I'm going to move that up. Put that there. And that's basically it for that. E. Once again, there's another silhouette change here. E. G. Maybe there. I just want to grab those two, I think. Yeah. Maybe two there. So you have this really nice curve around here. In the original, I might do there and then there, but this is optimized. Once again, level of detail. So I'm going to push this there. Now that's a straight line. So I'm very tempted to maybe put that there where you can sort of start seeing a bit of a curve. As you can see, I'm being like very, what would you call it? Free or more free with the triangles for sure. With an asset that's like this. Once again, because it's further, it's going to be seen, only this asset will be seen from a distance. You can kind of get away with a lot more. Even this, for example, I might be willing to do that and sort of use the texture to kind of project that bit in there and then use texturing, but that would be a different texture, which you don't really want to do. So yeah, case by case with that one. So let's say we do this approach and then just go E. Turn off snap, move that up. And there we go. And then just to save a bit of like a one polygon sort of thing, I'm going to move that down. Move that there, put the snap back on. Is that, yeah, that's a curve enough. Like so. Actually, no. I'm going to go all in on that optimization as well. Now, this one I might be willing to sort of optimize. Maybe. The thing is also, say for example, I might want to build the level of detail on this one more completely, see what the poly count is at the end, and then see if I want to optimize that a little bit further afterwards. So that's perfectly fine as well. I think getting comfortable, yeah, that can be straight. Like so. That's good. Curve, curve. Yeah, that's fine. I'm almost tempted to get rid of that one. Does it change? No. Let's get rid of that. Beautiful. And that's basically what it comes down to. If you can get rid of the edge with no change to the overall shape, do it. At least with like, let's say, highly optimized assets or level of detail assets. So say, for example, I like the quality of the original mesh that I've made, but this one, the level of detail, I would want probably less than maybe 2,000 polygons, because that's the way to go. Now, say, for example, this light, do I want it purely normal map? Maybe. But this is the interesting thing here. I'm talking about the normal map and the projection of that. So let me just check something. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so this is a prime example of the issue of normal map projection. So this light, or detail, I'm not sure what it is yet. If you look at it from, let's say, where this normal map would be. So let's put that in there again. And you got that. So let's say we were flat on there. And it depends on how like accurate it is in substance paint or whatever like that. But say, for example, this length here and this length here is very thin. So that normal would be quite high. But say, for example, the texture resolution, and this is a big thing, the texture resolution doesn't have enough resources in that part of the texture to get that like maybe 1 or 2 pixel width normal map, right? So what that would look like is basically straight down, and it would have no top or bottom because there's nothing to project. So you would have sort of like a raised ramp area here because that's a slightly different angle than the base, but you wouldn't have a raised area because the bottom and top is not detailed enough. So with that in mind, because the top and the bottom is quite sharp and kind of directly up, and this is a relatively small element, I would actually have to, if I want that detail, make the polygons. Now I could, once again, following the silhouette, go a little more this way. So put that there. E to extrude that, and then join those two there. And that follows that. So you've got a bit of a rise, and then you can hope that the normal map will figure out the rest, if that makes sense. Now, I wouldn't know if that's going to work until I bake it, which is an unfortunate case. But that's fine. Once again, you start learning these sort of shortcuts with every version. So say, for example, I learn that particular element in this bake. So in the next bake or the next asset, I would very much understand, okay, I need to put another loop in there to get that element. So the approach would be maybe that. And then let's put that out the front. To fix that normal up in the end. And in a way, it's kind of interesting because you got that curve as well. So in my case, I'm leaning a little bit more towards leaving that in there. And then sort of just closing that off. But what I can do, which is actually quite good, let's get rid of that one. Let's get rid of that one as well. And then I'm going to select those two edges and then press F again because that will join two edges, which is a great tool for that. Now, here we have more of a curve. So this is an interesting choice in regards to how many polygons do we want along here. So I could either do that, which is not great. And that would, the normal map wouldn't work very well there at all. And then you've got that there, which is better. So I'd probably go with that. That said, because that's is a little bit straighter, I guess you could say, I'm going to bake this into and therefore connect to there. Actually, let's move that up here just a little further and then join these two. Beautiful. Now, one of the biggest and most frustrating parts of optimization is getting a lot of polygons down to very few polygons. So let's move on to that sort of process here. Now, small note though, what I would probably do with a level of detail on this car. So I'm going to reverse engineer, retro this one, where I would be doing this as a very low polygon asset. Because what I would do with the higher polygon asset level of detail is use the same material and just start getting rid of a lot of the polygons. So after this optimization technique, we're going to look at maybe a quick version of that. So this is one of the biggest challenges in all everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that here. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to separate that. No, not separate. Split that. And then just sort of move that down here. And let's sort of try and get the edge that we want. And then figure out how to join it into everything else. So we've got our rim edge here. That's a very clear silhouette shift. So I'm going to sort of do that. And once again, I want as few out here as possible, but enough for this curve. This is where the problem solving comes in. There's a lot of interesting ways to sort of get it done with squares as well. I won't go into them because I don't know them as well as I probably should, to be honest. But say, for example, there are tutorials on YouTube in regards to optimizing like polygons, like squares, to less squares with relatively, not complicated, but yeah, optimization techniques is what I'll say. Now, I kind of do want them sort of mirrored this way, if that makes sense, because I just want it to be neat. So I'm going to push this a little further over here. I can go there. I think that's good. Let's close this one off over here. And just to sort of close that loop, because it sort of ends there. Well, maybe a bit down there. Which works, it keeps that equidistant. And there as well. So that's good. I like that. I think that's a reasonable amount of polygons that we're looking at. Now, how to get this one? So 1, 2, 3. Oh, that can go that way. Let's move that one over there. I'm going to add a cut there. Join that. Join that. Join that. That's a straight line, so I think we can put that one there. Yeah, that's fine. You know, when I said it was hard, yeah, right. I was clearly lying. Let's join those two. Close that. And then merge that one. G that one. What's happening here? Maybe I just didn't add it. Okay. Yeah, easy. That edge is pretty straight, so I don't have to worry about it too much. Yeah, so you can see it there, that goes down. So any curves that you wouldn't see on the edge, if it's straight, that's fine. But I think that's fine. Let's keep on going. Here. Okay. So that's a good quarter of the car already, if that makes sense. And we're, and we're in 188 triangles. That said, that might be, yeah, 376. So if you're using mirror in edit mode, it only keeps track of the things that you're editing. So when you do, when you unselect it, it goes to 376. So that's doubled. So just a heads up on tracking your numbers there. So yeah, and what are we at? Like 1 hour. Quarter of the car at 1 hour at a very optimized case. Nope. So I want that one to go over here. So let's put that there. Right. Now, here's another one of those choices, like how many polygons is worth that much distance? And how much do I trust the normal map? And once again, a lot of this comes down to normal map projection direction. So say, for example, if I move this across here, and let's say I do want, yeah, I do want that deep cut. So I'm just going to put that there. Like so, and then we can sort of cut that in quite easily. But say, for example, I do this approach. So let's say there's a bit of a curve, a tiny bit of a curve, not worth worrying about. Even there. So I would probably check this actually. And say, for example, at this point, I would consider, because then you have to unwrap and then move it over. One approach actually, Substance Painter, for example, has an automatic unwrap. Blender also has an automatic unwrap. So just for a test, like really quick test, I might want to project and see how that looks, right? But a couple of things. This is a small polygon, and this is a fair bit of detail, right? So it would kind of track that. But this dot here, this like super thin edge, might be too small for the texture. So I'd be, in my case, I'd be a little bit more this approach. So I'm gonna put that there. And put that there. And that allows me a little bit of a curve there as well. So I got the straight edge, the curve, pardon me. See if I can get rid of this. And then continue on, mostly because that cut there is really small. The other approach, and this is a lot of forethought, is you design the original car to not have things like that. So say, for example, I might either move that in, so it's a direct, it doesn't have that bit of detail there, or I move this further out so it looks more interesting. So it really depends on where you want to cut, where you want to optimize, where you want to balance, things like that, and how much forethought do you have when you're making the asset. When starting, I don't think like worrying about that sort of thing is not important, because you're learning and you're allowed to do things slowly because you want to get good slowly rather than bad quickly. So in my mind, I do feel that that is a better approach to learning, because the end result is you want to be good. Speed comes later. Skill comes first. And I will say that this would be a lot faster if I was not doing this with explaining every single thing that I'm doing. So there's that as well. So note that, say for example, we've got sort of all these key things. The poly count here is quite low because these are all straight edges, right? So once again, just using extrude or cut or edge loop, like add edge loop. There's not that many tools that I actually use for this approach, because you just don't need them. There is one thing, there's an add-on that I use, and I kind of forget which bits are this and which bits are not. But it's basically the F2, the mesh F2 key. Basically, it allows you to press F for some things like auto grab and stuff. So I put that on. It's not on by default, so I put that on just to do some cool things. Is the technical term. What else we got? So let's quickly do this. Now, because the in front is on, I can't see what I'm doing, so I'm going to put that off. F that. One of the problems with that F key is terminology with this. Now, are these two joined? No. So I'm going to connect those. That's there, so I'm going to grab that one, join those two, and then join those two. Right. So if we hide our high poly, you can already see that the car is kind of already there. I'm a little unsure about this one now. It's quite straight. But, object, shade smooth. And another, what do you call it, modifier I use a lot is weighted normal. So if you go to add mirror, edit, weighted normal, I will put this on face area, and I have to enable auto smooth, which is under here. So data, auto smooth, much nicer. So you can start seeing a bit more. Now, once again, the normal maps, when you bake the high poly onto the low poly, is going to be sort of clean that up. But I still, like, this bit's a bit weird, but I think that's cool. And I think that's that, because that edge here is quite sharp. So one way around that is to mark that as sharp, and then to keep sharp. And then you've got that sort of thing. I may maybe add that up. So adjust to whatever you think is nice. And then, so the auto smooth is 30 whatever, which is too low for the sort of things I want to do. Usually for baking, you will want everything to be smooth. So I'm going to put that to 90. So it smooths sort of these sort of things. And if it's less than 90, no, more than 90, it will put a sort of auto normal in there. And that sometimes will bake better. So choosing between the normals will also affect how the normal map works. If you change those normals later, it might break your normal map. So you kind of don't want to do that either. sometimes with, depending on how the triangles are laid out, I might want to clean up some of those just so it looks neater, because that looks a lot better than it did. I think it's fine. Once again, I'd leave that to the bake. The other approach, I don't mind, once again, just to make things neat, is I would kind of do that, right? So you got that sort of edge loop there, and then adjust these accordingly. So once again, depends on your, what would you call it? Let's go in front again. Desired poly count. So I'm going to leave that there. That one's fine. Once you edge loop on an asset, you might have to snap the object as needed. And then I can get rid of these two. Well, not get rid of the triangle, but I can get rid of the edge, because then I can now select loops a little better. And it just looks so much nicer, right? And with that there, I might clean this one up a bit. I'll just put that there. Get rid of that one. And that it just looks nicer, to be honest. This one, I also might cut across. And then put that there. We can get rid of that one. And then snap that one to there. And that's just a lot neater. So say, for example, if I was going for a lower detail asset, or this asset's level of detail, I would probably definitely get rid of that line. But for this asset, I kind of want to keep that one in there just because it keeps it neat. And I think that's fine. So that's good. Okay. Yeah. So I think you've got an idea of how to optimize the mesh with a lot of the considerations that I would make in that process. Now, let's get the high polygon. Moody, you got a polygon on the front part of the door here. I assume here. Under the car mirror. There. This one? Yeah. Loop it down, it's a few faces. Yeah. No. That one is less important, partly because you would never see that curve. Here you definitely do, right? So you've got that slight curve there. But here, you kind of don't. There is no difference there. And I know it's only a few, but I don't think I needed on that one. So what I think Moody is talking about in the YouTube chat is basically that one, I think. So let's turn that off and let's see the difference, right? So if you look at that, the difference is tiny. Like so. But say, for example, I don't think that difference is worth, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 polygons. I don't think it's worth 8 polygons. And even more if I don't clean that up before I go down here. So I think that's one that I would actually leave for that reasons. And once again, what each builder does with their poly count is up to them. But I kind of like that this is a little more optimized. But also making those decisions. Like, so say, for example, with that, you could 100% do that. What I could do, though, is clean that one up, which didn't work. Why didn't that work? Sometimes it won't do things. Why not? That's weird. What I will do, I'm going to move that down a bit just to sort of get that. Oh no, I'll leave it up because there's a bit of detail there. I'm going to connect those two like so, and then connect those two like so. So that's nicer. That's the one. Maybe that's what we were talking about. If so, fair point. 100%. No, I kind of like it there because that detail is a little bit finicky. So yeah, right, cool. So that's retopology. Now I would continue that for the whole thing. If I wanted, once again, a really optimized asset. So that's 480 polygons, which is quite small in regards to how much space is there. Now, you would get a lot more polygons in the front because the silhouette shifts are quite big and very clear. But say, for example, one approach, and this would be for the level of detail maybe, would be cutting across there. And this is another example of how, what do I want to do here? Shift D. This is a really good example of the normal map approach. So for example, I could, if I really wanted to, do that. And I think for this model, this one that I'm working on, I probably would, because that's a pretty fair shift in silhouette with a fair bit of detail. But say, for example, let's just add a couple more to there and there. So let's say we do that. Do that all the way around. So if I wanted the level of detail one, this has been baked. So imagine that is in there. Potentially, I might be able to just delete this one and do that. Now that would project. So if you look at the projection here is pretty much exactly as you see fit. But if you do this and like do that, let's get our little annotation thing. So it would project that detail into that shape, right? So if you baked it again, or I don't think the base normal map would work. It might look interesting, but it might not work. But say, for example, you could do lower the texture resolution down to 1024 or even 256, because once again, at distance, you don't need the detail. So for example, that approach would be one way to sort of get rid of like quite a lot of polygons around that whole asset there, depending on distance and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, understanding how normal maps work, how normal projection works, and there are different ways, and it's very much case by case, but you can sort of cheat a normal map or the better results of a normal map by the way you model the high poly and the low polygon. So you could sort of consider not the original model, but how is this going to look as a bake? And that is your approach to building it, which is interesting, kind of fun in a problem-solving way, but it gets really interesting results and really clean results if you do that sort of approach. The other approach also is, say, for example, I could put this light, not model it, I just build it in Substance Painter, because you can paint with normal maps, sort of just with different levels. So once you know all the tools with this whole process, you can start taking advantage of each and every one, depending on the detail that you're trying to do, things like that. Okay. Any questions? I haven't asked that yet. Any questions? So we've got that, for example. And it's definitely getting there. Looks like a car already, if you will. We'll call this super low poly. Any questions? Any questions? No. All right. Feel free to ask either in the Discord or the YouTube, either one. Now that you can hear me, I can actually answer them. The next thing I'd like to do, how are we going? We've got half an hour or more. I might hang out longer. I'm having fun. This one. So, this is the final asset, right? So, one approach to level of detail, anyway, is take your baked asset and then just start removing polygons. It's a bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on like where the triangle was put and things like that. It might not work, but I'm kind of interested to see. So I'm going to duplicate this. And let's just call this little LOD2. And that's the thing. With Unity, if you have an asset that has the same name underscore LOD1, LOD2, LOD3, LOD4, I think it allows, it will automatically import that asset with level of detail. So once again, when the camera gets further away from it, it will shift to a smaller asset with lower polygons. The balance, as everything has a balance with optimization, the balance is the file size, right? So if you have 4 objects and potentially 4 materials, so depending on how you do it. So if you can do it with the same material, that's best, but you may not be able to. But say, for example, you would have to do the 4 materials. That will increase the file size, right? It's the same with light mapping. Light mapping will allow you to bake all of the light into the space, so it looks really beautiful, but the file size increases because all of that data is in a texture. So moving between, what is it, file size, quality, time is a big thing, is the battle. The constant, endless battle for optimizing assets. Okay, so we've got this. Let's pull it apart. Now, small note. When I exported this asset from Unity as a GLB, I think, it triangulated it. Now, this is a prime example of why triangles suck. This is less subtle. I can't grab an edge loop anymore. So this asset, both in texturing and in, like say now, is a right pain. And because it's not mirrored anymore, because I needed to flatten it, I can't do this quickly. So I literally, if I wanted edge loops, have to do the extremely manual approach to doing this, or just not do it at all, which is a right pain. So say, for example, I've got all them. I delete dissolve edges. Nothing happens, but it is a lot cleaner. Now, I don't know if this was a Substance Painter issue, because I was looking into, what would you call it? I was looking into how to get around the mirrored issue with GLBs. So I'm not sure if I was exporting the asset from Substance Painter, if I was exporting it from Unity. So I'll have to look into that a bit more again to see if I can not do this, because it's a real pain. But I did this on purpose to show you how much of a pain triangles can be. Now, say for example that one, we can get rid of that. And there we've got that. There's another one. And then we've got that. There's another very small one in here. Oop, interesting. Is there? Nope, that one. Okay, cool. Right, we've got that. So as you can see, that the triangle does kind of halt the whole selection approach. Why is that one not working? Because it's not merged. Interesting. That's another thing that happened. I've seen this with a lot of assets that come in with issues, where if, depending on where you get it, so it could be a .vox, it could be something from Substance or whatever, it's kind of strange how occasionally, not always, but occasionally the vertices will break, if that makes sense. So none of the vertices are joined. So that was a prime example where that one is in the same spot, basically. So let's zoom in on that with period on the numpad. That is the same polygon, but for some reason, it broke. So one way around this is grab all of the polygons, go to merge vertices and go by distance. That distance is extremely small, so if it's joined, it should be joined. And as you can see, there were 1,300 polygons merged, right? Nothing's changed. It looks just as good. But now I can move the whole thing. Now notice how when I move, the normal map is doing... I don't know if you can see that, actually. Hang on. Yeah, maybe a bit better. If I move it around, the triangles do weird things. And this comes down to sort of the... what do you call it? The triangulation and the normal map and stuff like that. One approach is you could kind of... If you press G twice, you will scale across... You will move up and down actual things, which is a really useful skill. Tries to quad. Actually, yeah. So, hang on. So Moody says, select all faces in edit mode and do tries to quad operation. Where is that as not a hotkey? Because I'm interested to know. So let's grab them all. Probably in face. Let's have a look. Triangulate. Tries to quads. There we go. So Alt-J. It will do its best to select them all. Now notice there's a couple of issues here. So this is great because I've made mistakes. I'm going to delete that, see what happens. Oop. Notice how I deleted a face, but it's still there. And there's a couple of them. So those are extra polygons that I want to get rid of. So let's try something. So I'm going to delete those faces. So the normal map doesn't change there, which is interesting. But that said, like say for example, that might be an issue. So I'm glad I've done this because this is actually very important stuff. So you can sort of see when you go into edit mode, you've got this asset here. And that means that there is a polygon there that shouldn't be, basically. So if I delete the face, it's still there. Ah, the reason for that is because... Oh, no. Yeah, no, that's... Ah, am I killing that one? I am. That's why. Don't pay attention to anything I say. Right. So let's get rid of that one. Okay. Now let's try. Yeah, that's better. But notice when we reduce the poly count, the tries have already gone down. Not the poly count, the vertices. So yeah, useful. Now, the catch with that one is it might get the tries in the wrong way, but for the most part, it actually looks like it's done a really good job. Thanks for that, Moody. I did remember it, but then I forgot about it. So look at that. And now because of that, let's turn the mirror off. We can select, once again, there's a triangle there for some reason, so that's a glitch. Yeah, there we go. Let's do this again, because I don't know what I've done there. Okay, delete that. Grab that. That looks good. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, duplicate again. Hide that one. LOD2. Make sure it's all selected. Go to polygons, vertices. I'm going to merge vertices by distance. Reduced. Go to faces, do that. Go up to UV. Face, where was it? tries to quads. Much better. Ah, interesting. Okay, so with that one, what I'm going to do is kind of unselect those polygons and see if that cleans that up, for example. Was it Alt-J? Yeah. But the thing is, because of that issue, I'm going to need to look at all of the other things. So for example, that glitch. Oh, interesting. Ah, interesting. Okay, so by merging the vertices, I think the normals have changed. Because that's what I want it to look like. So that's an interesting one. So I'm going to duplicate that again. Get rid of that one. And let's have a look at if there's any... Yeah. So I wonder... Yeah, it's weird connections between faces. So the thing is, this could be an interesting thing because of different approaches to how I was trying to troubleshoot the mirroring thing with GLBs, which I now understand is a very simple thing to do, but that might mean that I have to go back and rebake, oh no, and retexture the whole asset. That's problematic. But anyway, good to know. You learn, you live and learn. So what's happening here is, as you can see, there is a very sharp edge here, and that's because the vertices are not joined. So what I could do, if I select that and go Control L, what I think it's done when I made this is, I wonder if Substance Painter splits the meshes on sharp things. I'm going to have to figure this all out off stream because it's going to be a whole troubleshooting guide. But say, for example, with this asset, for example, I was trying to figure out how to get the normal map working on a flipped normal map working on a GLB. One of the approaches was to export the object from Substance Painter into Blender, and that seemed to work to make it look good from Substance Painter. I don't know if that applies anymore, so I'm gonna have to do some more troubleshooting with that, but good to know. So I'm gonna have to figure out like a more refined approach to the potential issues between Substance Painter, Blender, and mirrored assets. So I'm not going to merge them for now, because I need to figure all that out. But what else can we do? So let's not merge, because some assets will be this way, regardless of what you do to it. And just get rid of some of these and see what happens. So a useful thing, instead of just alt-clicking and hoping to get the loop, what you can do is select one and then use Control, and that will find the shortest way between two things. Now, I'm going to have to kind of select all of these manually, just as an example, and then we'll move on. Because I'm interested to see, and once again, because it's triangles, maybe this won't work. But we've got that. So I'm going to try and get rid of all of these. I want to get rid of that main line there. So if I delete the edges. Yeah, that looks good. So that removes, so we've got 733, dissolve edges. We moved 10 tries in that loop, if that makes sense. Let's get rid of these ones as well. Yeah, that looks fine. 21. Say, for example, I might want to sort of clean that up a little bit, but things like this might break it. But in that case, I think that looks fine. So that's fine. So, yeah. if the edge loops were correct and it didn't scatter all of the, I think, UV maps from Substance Painter perhaps, this would be a lot easier. But basically the plan would be to kind of remove any loops that are not required at distance. So once again, this would be easier. Now, what this would do, this would allow the asset to do, is basically, let's remove those. Yeah, that looks fine. What this would allow you to do is use one material for all 3 LODs, which reduces the file size. And maybe not the draw calls, because if each asset, each LOD is a different material, it's still one draw call, right? So if I get rid of one to the second level, it's still one material, so the draw calls is the same amount, to my knowledge. That said, it would require more file size because you're adding different textures, right? So say, for example, if your LOD 2 or 3 or 4 requires a different texture, that's file size. So we've got that. So yeah, let's get rid of that. So that's one approach to sort of maybe semi-quickly create a LOD version. I'm actually also going to get rid of, yeah, the top. Let's get rid of the whole thing. Can we get rid of the whole thing? Oh, that'd be cool if we could. Because it's not mirrored. The bottom is, so I couldn't do it with that. Because if I get rid of that, that's not going to be mirrored anymore. And not work. But the top, because I'm smart, might be able to... because it's not joined. That messes so much stuff up. Okay, let's try this approach. Yeah. This is going to be interesting. Okay, so the bottom is probably going to glitch, and that's fine because I want to show you that. But the middle bit, sure. So say, for example, there are some issues. There's this one. So what I could do there is maybe get rid of that and see what happens. Delete. Fine. And we've lost a fair few polygons in that one. But say, for example, these aren't getting removed because of the triangles. So say, for example, all of these, if I get rid of them, yeah. So I need that one because that's where the normal map goes, but then I'm going to close this one off. Well, we don't even need to, but I'm going to because there's that. So notice how when I added that, the triangles, because the triangles are now different, it kind of breaks the normal map. So if I sort of did this one, maybe... Nope, that breaks it as well. So you have that sort of element of, yeah, once again, choosing which polygons to remove because you will break things otherwise. So in this case, a lot of it's probably okay because I didn't get rid of the triangles in many of these cases, but that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. This one's going to be interesting. Yeah, that detail gets messed up. So I'm gonna keep that one. Let's get rid of this one. That one's gonna break. Yep. So it's kind of interesting. Yes. So Moody points out, because maybe I didn't explain it very well, an LOD, level of detail. So say, for example, if I was really close to this asset, it would look like this. And you need it to look this good because you're really close to it. But the further you get away from it, a lot of the detail kind of doesn't need to be there. So reducing that poly count will allow these assets to render faster with higher performance because there's less polygons to do. Moody pointed out that Unity will automatically adjust the bitmaps. So that's kind of like a level of detail of a texture. So it reduces the texture as well. But Moody, do you know if your LODs have different textures, what happens then? Like, does it map that by distance or what sort of thing? I haven't used level of details very much, but if you're using if you're creating a very complex space, then level of detail would be highly recommended. So yeah, there are ways to optimize. Once again, this asset isn't in a state that would allow it to do it really easily, and I will see if I can figure out how to make sure that it does get done easily, if that makes sense. Once again, that timeline doc will be going live, so all of this will be written down, and I do hope to release a video eventually that sort of covers this asset. Maybe not all of the different things that we've done, because I've gone into a bit of detail on all of the optimization approaches. But yeah. So there's that. That said, we've got 10 minutes to go for this workshop. So if you have any questions, if you have any other things that you would like to ask in regards to anything, to be honest, have at it. I'll see if I can answer it. Right. But will it add more draw calls because it's using a different material for the same thing? So you're still only doing one draw call, unless Unity keeps like each asset in memory, right? So if you have a high polygon, lowest optimized asset material, and then 2, 3, and 4, does it keep those in memory? Right. Okay, so the best way is to keep the one texture, which kind of is this approach, I guess. I think I might do a level of detail doc actually, and how to do that sort of thing. Okay, so let's do a challenge. In regards to the other things I started talking about at the start of this workshop, the, what would you call it? Do not save this. New. General. No. Cool. So let's very quickly, like really quickly, see what we can do with palette texturing assets. Why not? I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to put 10 minutes. This is the goal. Who's in? Mirror. We want a material. So let's go up to, let's just put it here. Base color, image texture, open. Now I made a very quick, what do you call it? Gradient texture here. So say for example, if you look at this, that one. Now this has like polished metal and emissive and all sorts of things. So say for example, if you're making an asset as a GLB, basically let's duplicate that one. So I do have a metallic and roughness PNG. And then we need to do a separate color. That. Now, if I recall, which one is it? There's a doc for that. Metallic and smoothness. Roughness is green, not smoothness. So this annoys me with Unity so much because they went with smoothness, not roughness. I think Unreal every other industry, every other asset creation tool and thing usually uses roughness. Unity decided not to. So roughness is in the green channel and metallic is in the blue channel. So roughness is in the green channel. Metallic is in the blue channel. Now, if I go to UV editing, I want to look at my gradient. Let's go mirror, put that there. And let's just move that over here for a bit. I'm going to make this that way. Nope. Align vertically. Right. So I want this. Oh, there's no light. What? No. Why is that being weird? What? Ah. Might have something to do with it. Okay, blue, metallic. There we go. Okay. So what we've got here is basically a very small asset that I can use my palette mega texture. Now this is like, I think it's 5 by 512 by 512. So very small. And then I can use this to sort of create really nice assets. So what I would usually do actually is go edit with that. Put it on the front, like how I want to do that. Go UV project, so project from view. Then I will flatten that like this way, and then I will put it in the gradient that I want to. So say, for example, I want it to sort of be nice up here and dark down here. I can do that. Now, if I really wanted to, I can put that asset, if I align it to 1 pixel, I can put it to any one color, like so. Which is very cool. Now, what I've done here is with the metallic and roughness is I've changed the effect. So down here, what's a color we can sort of make this very clear on? So it's a little bit more shiny. Whereas this one is very shiny. Where this one is also metallic. Right? So if I had a full asset of a character, so let's real quick like make some edits to our asset. So what do we want to do? Let's do a vase or something. One technique I really like actually. So I'm going to get rid of everything but those 3. No, this way. No. Delete edges. Because I'm going to use I'm going to get rid of the mirror and I'm going to use generate screw. What this allows you to do is make a really quick everything. So E. Let's close that off. Now, if this was two-sided, that would be fine, but usually a more performant approach is not two-sided, so I'm actually going to add the interior. And once again, a bit more optimized for that as well, like so. And that's kind of it. Now, say for example, the top here, you can see how the polygons can adjust. Now, I think, let me see, 22, yeah. And that's the render, so that's not important for this one. So, like, say for example that. So if this asset was important, I would probably do, maybe not 32, 24. Yeah, 24 is the way to go. But if this asset was not important, I would probably go down to maybe 12. Maybe. I do find, generally speaking, if you want an asset to be curved, make the straight edge here on the top and the bottom and that sort of thing. So say, for example, 13, not so good. So with a standard of optimized assets, if you always have those two, there's a higher chance of getting it to align with other things. So if you had 14, for example, that doesn't work as well. But if you do 16, that does, for example. So I find that a really good approach to, if you're sort of merging assets together with low polygons, having a similar structure for curved objects is quite useful. All right. Now, when it comes to that way, I want to sort of add a few more polygons. Now, because this is a screw, it's actually harder. Can I put that in? Yes. So for that point, I used Control R to add an edge loop, which worked well. So cut doesn't work on like up there. Depending on the asset, say for example, I like to, if possible, and that's very much if possible, try to keep a flow of length, if that makes sense. That way it just looks neater, kind of. But once again, if the area or the difference is less, then it's less important. So once again, depends on the kind of asset that you're building. So I might put that further down and then sort of start a new common width, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's a nice vase, works well. Let's flatten that one. So in object mode, apply. I want this one, and this one to be sharp. And then go shade auto smooth, that's quite useful. Yep, that works. Let's grab all of it. Oh, I missed my 10-minute thing. Okay. But let's finish this. Project from view. Grab all of that. Align vertically. We now have a red vase. I don't like the smoothness of these, so I'm just going to go shade smooth. Put auto normals on. Put that up to 90 again. So smooth there, sharp there. Sharp will override the auto smooth. So if you want everything to be like smooth and only on what you want, 180 is kind of the maximum. But I usually find that 90 is where it's at. So that's fine. Let's do some other things. Let's put this one, as blue. That's cool. But I want that to be a little nicer with a little bit more gradient. I think that'll be nice. Yeah, cool. Now, instead of that, I'm going to get rid of this one. And then I'm going to rotate that. Nope, other way around. So, what I'm trying to do here is I want to sort of make these, what would you call it? The same, and then flip it. So I'm going to, project that. Just to there. And do the same over here. Project that. Put them up here. Make sure these are aligned. So align horizontally, and I want to flip one of these like so. Then I want to do that, and then I want to do that. Now I don't want it that order, I want it the other way around, like so. So we've got that. Now I want to kind of add a loop so it looks like a kind of a detail. So that's Control R to add a loop. Put that there. Put that there. Scale that up like so. Now notice how the normal is changing because of this. So that is beyond 90. So we'll put a crease in there, if sort of thing. I'm going to move that outside one up a bit. Maybe down a bit. That's cool. I actually want that inside to be the same color, I think. So let's take that. Let's do this. I'm going to grab all of these. I've changed everything. Okay. Hang on. So this little button here selects, if I select the models in here, it selects the ones in there. If I turn that off, it's only the selected vertices will be in here. So sometimes I find this quite useful in regards to sort of understanding what I'm doing. Yeah. There we go. Let's flatten that. Oh no, let's go here, project that, and then flatten that. Ta-da. Now, I kind of like that, but I want that to be a little less shiny. Which one's that one? Or different. Let's put this over here. There we go. Okay. Let's do some other interesting stuff here. Because why not? Let's do this, maybe. This one. So what I want to do... this is also another benefit of kind of the amount, the standard loop amount, is because usually you'll want something that's a bit, what would you call it? Like interspersed, right? So interspersed, flipped, that. So say for example, you've got that, and then we can move that over here. And that's looking pretty cool. So say for example, you got this gradient that gives you a bit of automatic depth in your asset. But with this PBR approach, you can do all sorts of interesting things. And then you could do emissive down here. I actually added an alpha as well. I don't know if this works because GLB alpha in Unity anyway can get a little bit weird, I guess you could say. So I do want to experiment with that more, but I won't experiment on this asset. But we have a very colorful circus, air balloon, or vase. Vase. But we'll call it there. Excellent. Hope you got something out of it. Apologies for not the audio. Well, that's the other thing, right? So if I wanted to... Well, in this case, it doesn't matter to make it symmetrical. If you're talking about in regards to red and yellow, I don't think that's symmetrical because symmetrical is in the middle. So that would be flipped. This time I don't need to flip it because we're using the same material regardless of what the polygons are doing. Whereas with the baked approach, see, like the sober car mirroring extends those UVs significantly on this one texture, but everything on this will fit in here somewhere. Now I could make a whole space with this one texture, potentially, which would significantly reduce the draw calls, and allow you like some creativity in regards to gradients. You've got a lot of colors here you can work with. I've got like a low, a darker color, a bright color, and a light version. I've got gray as well if I wanted to do that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of elements to this that allow you a lot of creativity and a really optimized approach. So I like this one on the fact that it's quite fun. It's interesting to do. It's quick to make the assets. That took less than 10 minutes. And I could 100% put that into Unity right now, for example. So yeah, I like this approach. The palette texturing, or let's say gradient texturing approach, I want to get as well. Another thing that I'm interested in looking at is, say for example, I don't want metallic or I don't want semi-polished. I could save this rectangle or this square, this part here, for decals and use that in different ways. So if I have a logo, or if I have some different elements of texture that I really need to be in the texture, I could cut off some of this asset and put the decals in there. And once again, if I use those decals many times in the space, that's worth it. But if I use that decal once, maybe not. So depending on what you were trying to do with that detail, you could do some really cool stuff with that. So yeah, we'll call it there. If there's no other questions, glad you had or joined me. Welcome, and hopefully you learned some things. I did. I have to look at that car again now and figure out if I have to do that again. So that's a choice, because I want that to be like perfect optimization. And then I'll be looking at the LODs of that as well. So I might look into creating a LOD doc eventually, and probably video as well as the one that I'm working on. So lots of stuff in the pipelines there. So yeah, all right, I'll leave you to it. I will stop this and re-record the audio for the first bit of this video. I hate it when I do that. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Have a nice day, and happy building.